Taranjeet. How are you today?
Hi, Muyan. Very well, very well. Another day and we're coming into the end of the week now. Second
Wow,
week
that's fast,
almost
huh?
done. I swear to you, what an exciting journey we're doing.
Yes, yes. So today we have a very exciting show ahead, and as all have known, we got a special guest which we want to bring him on in a short while. So if you can all see, we are very fortunate today to have with us Mr. Heera Singh, who is a human resource and training consultant. So he has a master's in management from Lancaster University, and as well as a master's in human resource management from Leicester University, UK. He's also the authors of two books, the recent being the famous Human Resource Documentation. And with us today is Heera. So let me just warmly welcome Heera to our fold while we wait back for Taranjeet, who is stuck. So Heera, can you hear us?
Yes, Mohan. Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, Mohan. Thank you so much for having me with this session. I'm quite excited, and I think we've got some very good things that we can discuss, which will be really helpful to those listening in.
Okay, all right. So maybe we will just wanted to ask you to provide us with some perspective of the employer's landscape, how it looks like, and from what you've been hearing, your clients and whoever you've been seeing, what does it looks like currently and in the coming months? Maybe we will just start with that.
Okay, Mohan. In one word, bleak. I would use the word bleak. But let's talk about the reality first here. Firstly, there are many companies out there making lots of money today. The supermarkets, the food delivery companies, the bread makers, any online business and so on, they are making a lot of money. So there are also people during this crisis making a lot of money. But the majority of companies are not doing so well. For example, FMM did say in a survey that they carried out among their members, they actually said that 30% of their member companies are seriously contemplating carrying out some form of downsizing exercise. So that tells you how serious the situation is, because that's only manufacturing. Now, the worst hit industries have been tourism and tourism-related industries. For example, the airlines, the hotels, travel agencies, and so on. Just today, I just heard on the news, Virgin Australia has closed down already. It's a big airline, and it has closed down. It just shows how serious the situation is. But just on Virgin Australia, just ironically here, they went to the Australian government and asked for a bailout. The Australian government refused. So now they have to close down, which means all their employees now are the problem of the Australian government. So it's a very serious kind of situation. As much as you want the government to assist, the government also has its constraints and so on. So let's go back to the question of the situation right now. It is bleak, and therefore companies are contemplating or taking all kinds of measures to ensure, and I use this word, survivability, at least for the short term. Because business has come down. Can you imagine me as a company? I have, let's say, 100 employees on my payroll list. My monthly turnover is 10 million, let's say. Suddenly, my turnover comes down by 80% to 2 million, but I still have 100 workers with me. So I definitely, it is not, I mean, there are no returns on investment. There's more money going out than money coming in. So I definitely have to plug this. I have to stop paying this money and so on. And obviously, one of the things that I will have to consider will be manpower downsizing. Because as you know, one of the biggest fixed costs of any company is salary costs. And therefore, this is something that can be done immediately, short-term, quick, and you can see quick returns on investment. So companies right now are contemplating this. And just to add one more thing, as you know, in recent days, oil prices have also come down drastically. So which means the oil and gas industry is also affected drastically. So can you imagine, here is the tourism industry, here is the oil and gas industry, and they all don't live in isolation. Everything is interrelated, interconnected, and so on. So can you imagine all the downstream companies that are supporting the oil and gas companies and the tourism companies and so on? They will be very, very drastically affected. And therefore, I am most certain all of them are sitting down and talking about survivability. And one of the main things they are also contemplating will be downsizing the manpower of their companies so that they can cut down fixed costs, at least in the short term.
Okay. So with that itself, let me see whether I can bring Taranjeet. Taranjeet, are you back?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you catch some flavor of that from Heera. Maybe
Yes.
you want to maybe ask Heera a opening question.
Of course. Of course, of course. So Heera, thanks a lot, and I do apologize for me missing in action for a couple of seconds just now. So apologies for that. But I think you've raised some very good points around the cash containment and the cost containment perspective right now. This then leads to the perspective around how do you see the relationship with employees and employers playing out? What type of relationship do you see coming out into the front? The last week or so, we've been hearing a lot around the gig economy. We've been hearing a lot around the changing relationships on a contractual basis. What are your views on this, Heera?
Okay, so let's go back to what I said previously. That is manpower costs, the highest fixed cost of any company. Now, if I was an employer, I would like to have what we call an optimum workforce at any one given time. So at this point in time, for example, if I use my same example, I've got 100 workers on payroll, but my turnover has drastically dropped by 80%. So I have a lot of redundant employees, and I'm not sure when they will become useful to me again in the future. Now, if there was a system whereby I can straight away, let's say, at least take away 50 employees from my payroll, that will assist me a great deal. But you see, the thing right now is most companies in Malaysia, Taranjeet, follow what I call the conventional system, whereby an employee is selected, he comes and works for a company, they give him a 6 months probation, for example, and after that, once it's confirmed, that's it. If he wants to, he can stay in that company for life, unless there's a misconduct or maybe he's retrenched, yes. But otherwise, he's got employment for life if he wants to. Now, for an employee, that's very good. It's security. But if I will look at it from an employer's perspective, not so good. Two things. I got no flexibility. And then I've got, for example, if I just use an example of a toilet cleaner. I've got a toilet cleaner who's in my payroll for 20 years because she or he is very loyal. But pay has risen to a very high level because of the annual increment. Now, I can go out there in the market and get another toilet cleaner and pay them much less than this who has been loyal to me for 20 years. So as much as I like loyal employees, but I also will have to look at the financial implications. And that definitely is something that employers will have to review. And I use the word of optimum workforce. And one thing is, you know, in Malaysia, I use this word opium here of what you call these foreign workers. Company, it's the easiest solution. Everybody, because they're cheap, they're available, and yes, they help me to cut down costs and so on. Yes, and therefore people are not looking at other options. I think from a positive perspective, something like this COVID-19 crisis, will make employers start to look at the employer-employee contract in different ways so that they will have flexibility at all times. And let me give you some examples of what I mean by flexibility here. For example, I would think many employers can now start thinking of investing in technology or machinery equipment so that these will take the place of manpower. So let's say I have a department where there are 20 employees. I invest in this all singing, all dancing machinery, which will take the place of 10 employees. I mean, making 10 employees redundant, which means I have 10 employees and a machine. In that sense, I am more flexible from a manpower perspective. And this is actually, sorry, this is all actually already being done in countries like Japan and so on. I was there recently, and I went to a small little noodle store, and I had to go there. There was a machine. I had to pay my money, make my orders, take the receipt out, and then go there, put the paper there, and then he makes me my noodles. These are some things that we have to think about. I believe McDonald's in Malaysia is already doing it in some pilot runs in some stores.
Auto ordering, they take out the server in that sense. Yeah.
Exactly. So you do some of their work and so on.
So I think it's a very, sorry to cut you there, but I think it's very good perspective, Heera, that you provided us the landscape. And I think you are right to say that it changes the relationship. And I think COVID also, I think everybody agree, pushes us to the brim of this adoption of 4.0. I think everybody was talking about IR 4.0, but nobody wanted to do it. Suddenly, when this thing hit us, then everybody say, wow, you should have done it, 5 years ago or 3 years ago, and whichever applies. I think I wanted to bring something more pertinent, but before I do that, I just wanted to acknowledge some of our audience. As usual, thank you, Zora, for tuning in. Thank you, Dr. Mike. Hi, Ranjit, again, good to see you. Ben, welcome back. And today we have Mr. To Silpat, our good friend, your good friend, Heera. Nice to join and support us. All right, hi. So actually, I wanted to maybe to really drill it down to, I think you recently, I think was last weekend, you wrote an article on your LinkedIn, and maybe I will just pull it out to share with the audience so that they know what I'm referencing to. Yeah. So you released this idea of the downsizing preparation checklist, and I think that this document is one of very good things that most employers can look at if they want to consider downsizing or right-sizing. I wanted to tap you on this, and maybe you can just pick maybe one or two critical ones to just maybe give the context of the checklist, pick one or two to explain to our audience, and then maybe I'll get Taranjeet back to ask you some questions.
Sure. No worries, Mohan, but just a short preamble. I just want to say here, downsizing exercises are probably the most difficult of any kind of exercises that a HR department or HR manager will have to undertake. It requires a lot of planning, and it's quite emotional because you're dealing with humans and sometimes forceful termination of employees and so on. And this is something not easy to be done. I have done it when I was a HR manager, and I will tell you, as much as I can talk about it now, I will tell you when I underwent it, it was traumatic, not only for the employees who were retrenched or downsized, but also for the people who were managing the whole process. So let's go back to this downsizing checklist. And I think this is very important because of the nature, it's so difficult that we need to have this checklist so that when we go through the checklist, we make sure that we leave no stone unturned. That means we have looked at the whole downsizing exercise from all perspectives, so that we have covered all the holes and made sure that it is implemented effectively, efficiently, with the least number of what you call is problems for the company and also for the employees. So let's start with some of the things that I talked about. Number one, reasons for downsizing now. Please understand that you cannot just undertake a downsizing exercise tomorrow. No. Legislation will not be happy, or the authorities will not be so happy. So you have got to show to the authorities that you have taken all measures, and yet you are still in a state where your survivability is at stake. Then yes, you undertake your retrenchment, downsizing, VSS, and so on. Now, when I say some measures, it could be things like unpaid leave, salary cuts, and so on. So these are some things that you have to do. It's difficult, but you still have to do. Now, and when you go to the labor office, because you have to give the PK form to the labor office 1 month prior to whatever exercise that you're doing, inside there, you have to justify your downsizing. So they want to see some facts, figures. So the aim is to make sure that you don't abuse your situation or take advantage of this COVID-19 situation. Yeah, it must be fair and just. I think one of the things that you also have to do would be plan, plan, plan. And that checklist will help you because it is a very difficult exercise. Let me give you some examples of difficulty here. Let's say you want to retrench your employees. Now, it says that you give them 1 month notice period. Now, let me ask you, you've got 100 employees, you want to retrench 50 employees, you give them a 1 month's notice. Now, what do you think these 50 employees will do for the next 1 month? They'll be very disgruntled, demotivated. That's fine. I mean, their productivity is zero, that's fine. But let me assure you, there may be some who may do certain things. Yeah, that may have huge financial implications for the company. One spanner in an expensive machine can bring that whole machine down, a 2 million ringgit machine and so on. So as much as we want to do it in as best a manner as possible, there are also some, how do I call it, things that we may have to do, and I use the word harshly. Yes, you wanted to say.
So can I come in here and cognizant of time, Heera? So definitely the planning stage is absolutely critical, and the potential simulations around cost around that, because your retrenchment is not without cost. There is expense around that. So all those simulations need to be done, taking into account how much we need to pay them, the tax implications around that, and what have you. What would be another critical area in the checklist that you would think would be priority?
I think very, very important. What will the future structure of the organization be? Don't just retrench, and then you have a workforce that's left who can't do what the company wants them to do. So that has to be considered. And the next very important thing, what happens after the whole downsizing exercise is over? Because let's say you've downsized 50%, you've got 50% of your employees. Now, these are 50% of your employees. Yes, they're happy they've got work, but they'll be unhappy that they'll have to do double the work, for example. So you've got to find to motivate them and so on, and also to reassure them that that retrenchment or downsizing will not affect them and so on. So there's a lot of interplay of emotions here and so on. And that makes it very difficult. Let me assure you, Taranjeet, I've gone through and I'll tell you it's very traumatic.
No, you're absolutely right. I won't say the privilege, but I had the opportunity to work on one of the largest restructuring of recent times in my career with one of the airlines, a local airline here, and we were impacting thousands of people. And you're absolutely right. There is an emotional toll that takes place on the individuals that are currently going through it. It's not easy. And if anybody has seen George Clooney's Up in the Air, it is nothing like that. It's absolutely nothing like that. That's a Hollywood approach to how it's supposed to look like. But the reality is, it's very difficult. It's very painful for both parties, simply because there are so many other factors that have to be taken into account, including those who are going to be impacted with you as you leave the organization, the family members. And no, absolutely right. Can I take, and we are in our last 5 minutes here, one issue here that really comes across is the area around being emotionally and empathetic to the people. But to be fair as well, it is a very clinical exercise too, because there's a level of objectivity that comes into play. There's a level of making sure that we do what is right for the organization. How do you balance the two, Heera? What are the things that you need to have in play to balance the clinical part of it, as well as the things that need to be done right for the purposes of the employees?
That's a very difficult question, Taranjeet, but a very good question. Yes. Let me just give you my experiences, for example. prior to the downsizing, I had a lot of problems with management because management would say, no, we can't pay that much, lesser. So I'm thinking of the employees, give them a good deal so that they'll be happy. But management is very sensitive about cost. No, we can't. So there's a lot of fighting between you and them. Let me give you one more thing. I was doing this fighting, but at the same time, I was telling myself, maybe I will be called by the CEO and said, you're also on that list. So I was planning my own imminent, if I may say so, departure from the company, but I didn't know about it. So it was difficult, but at the same time, I also did things like, for example, we did outplacement services and so on to assist people to find jobs. We also made sure that their resumes were up to date, made better, and we carried out some training on interviewing skills so that they'll be prepared for their next job or to get their next job. So there were a lot of unhappy employees, but this was the best we could do.
Excellent. And I think that really sets us up for the next guest we'll be having. Muihan, back to you, sir.
Thank you. Wow, again, I think, Taranjeet, you're right. We need to host Heera back again. So much to talk about, and we don't have much time. And we really thank you for your perspective. So maybe I'll just pull the screen up again. I really, as a professional, I really encourage all of you to check this piece out. We have posted the link on the comment section. Hopefully you can check it out. So it is the downsizing preparation checklist written by Heera Singh. You can also follow Heera on his LinkedIn. You can look for the article there. If not, the link is down there. So that is as regards to today's vote. So tomorrow we actually have the pleasure of having Shahryn Azmi, who is the CEO of CDC. Where we asked him to come in is a little bit different in that sense, and we actually wanted to now take the other position as well of individuals that actually being retrenched in that sense. And tomorrow we will have that good pleasure to actually get Shahryn to share with us his retrenchment experience, and this is something that we hope that more out there who are either being retrenched or think that they would be retrenched can also join us to actually ask questions, as well as to be rest assured that although this is a very painful, emotional process, but it is not the end of your life. It's not the end of everything. There's always something that you can do differently moving forward. It may not be very comfortable. It may not be very something that you like, but nevertheless, it's not the end of the world. So we want to invite all of you out there who is thinking that you're going to be retrenched or possibility, or those who have also retrenched. We also like to invite you to come and share your stories with us as we do the discussion with Shahryn. Yeah. So we also cognizant that today is the eve of Ramadan, and we want to take this opportunity to wish all our Muslim friends, business partners, associates, as well as our audience out there, Salam Ramadan, and may you all take this fasting month with focus and hope that we will get to celebrate at the end of Ramadan in a cheerful manner, where there's no longer any COVID-19, which is very stressful for all of us now. Right.
Indeed.
You, Taranjeet?
Yeah, indeed. So very quickly, some very good takeaways from Heera today. Thank you, Heera, for joining us on this very poignant episode. Very impactful thoughts around being planful, very impactful thoughts around being just and fair, many thoughts around ensuring that the appropriate simulations are conducted to this end. And that, I think, will require you to come back in one more time for another session with us, if you can spare the time, Heera. On my end, I would like to wish everyone Selamat Berpuasa, and wish you all a blessed month of Ramadan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.